Hey guys, the other day one of my friends came over who had never drove Gran Turismo before and was interested to try out my racing wheel. I gave him 10 laps around Dragon Trail Gardens reverse in the Citroën Group 3 car with the driving line and traction control enabled. After multiple spins and wrecks, he finally was able to get a somewhat decent lap together. However, there were still many areas where he needed to improve, including having smooth inputs, finding braking zones, and anticipating what is ahead. In this video, I want to compare how an amateur driver approaches doing a lap and what an experienced sim racer does differently. I hope you enjoy. So as we start the amateur lap here, you can see we have a penalty we're going to have to serve, which is going to hinder the start of our lap, but we'll deal with it nonetheless. So as we get to the finish line, shifting up to 4th gear here is actually an automatic just to make things easier for this driver, but the Ghost starts ahead of him, so it's actually not his best start of the lap, but he doesn't really get on the brakes here. He's kind of in the middle of the track, partial brake, maybe like 20% or so, and as he approaches the apex, he kind of realizes he's overshooting the corner. That's when he gets on the brakes heavier. Look at the throttle input. You see nothing, then back to full power immediately. No linear progression, causing the rear wheels to spin a lot and get the car to get out of control and eventually wreck into the inside wall. So obviously not the best few corners. It's just it seems like the driver kind of knew where the racing line was, or at least where the corners went, but not exactly the best way to approach those corners. So anyways, as we accelerate after our wall hit, we can see that we're not exactly following the racing line here. At this point, we're kind of just in the middle of the track, and we should be bringing the car over to the right-hand side as we're approaching this left-hand corner, but we're starting to do that a bit now, but not particularly. So as we start the lap for the pro side, we can see that we're already up to speed. We're not having to serve a penalty. We're on the very left-hand side of the track, and a bit in the grass there wasn't exactly preferred, but looking at the 150, then we're looking at the 100 sign up ahead, and we're trying to brake right around the 100 at the curb. Down to 3rd, basically full brakes, and as we get to the apex, trailing off the brake. Completely different braking style. Partial throttle throughout here, being very patient, then half throttle, then 3/4 once we get to the apex, waiting for the car to straighten out, then using full throttle, bringing the car over to the left-hand side, using all the track necessary. Obviously, when you spin out, you can't use all the track, but nonetheless, we'll just look at that. So again, as we're bringing the car over to the right-hand side, a clear intention for what we're doing and how we're trying to prepare for the next corner. Heading back to the amateur lap here, we can see the driver's approaching this multi-apex corner, gets on the brakes a bit early here, which causes him to go over the curb. He could have taken a lot more speed into here, however, he is following the racing line, which is a good approach. Again, partial throttle through here, just trying to maintain some speed, and then let off, which isn't really doing anything. He's not really using all the grips that the tires have to offer. Then you can see after this corner, he gets back to full throttle immediately, very abrupt and sharp input. Then after this corner, he lets off as he sees the turn. He doesn't want to overshoot it, which again, it causes the rear to step out. And it's just a lot of abrupt, sharp movements, which is kind of making the corner safe, but not fast. Heading over to the Prolap, we are trying to treat the multi-apex section as one long curve rather than reacting to each corner as they come up. We use the brake to enter the corner, but still use partial throttle to maintain stability and high apex speed. Unlike the amateur lap, there is no point where we are off both pedals, and you can also hear the tires squealing throughout the corner, showing that we are maximizing the tire's potential grip. Getting back to full power out of the final apex, we use up all the track, get a good exit for the next section. Heading back over to the amateur lap now, we're going to approach another set of S's, and going over to the first corner, get a bit of braking on entry, and then back to full throttle and exit, which is a very abrupt input again. However, we're back to no throttle here, which is a very odd way to do it. I feel like you could have had partial throttle throughout that whole section to go a bit faster. Again, through this corner, basically just the smallest bit of throttle could have been a lot more to keep a higher apex speed. Approaching the braking zone here, not exactly a knowledge of where to brake, so we're just waiting, and then waiting, and then waiting, and then it's small bit of brake, and as we approach the corner, realize we overshot it, and we put on more brakes, and then we turn the wheel even more, and it's just clear to tell this is a very reactive way to approach the corner. Heading over to the pro lap here, you can see we're using all the curb on the left-hand side to get a wide entry into this first right-hander, using partial throttle through the apex, and getting back to full throttle, lots of transition, bring the car up to the right-hand side, and then partial throttle through the left-hander as well, rather than letting off completely through here. Bring the car back over to the left-hand side, allowing us to stay flat through this right-hander as we approach the hairpin. And through this section, we're really trying to focus on where we're going to position the car as we brake right before the 100 board. So we're going to bring the car all the way over to the curb, and full brake, and then trail brake down to 2nd gear as we get up to the apex, using all the apex curve here, and then right as we're unwinding the wheel, waiting for the wheel to get fully straight before we get back to full throttle, going to use all the curbing on exit, allowing us to get a good exit onto this back straight. Heading over to the amateur lap for the final part of the course, he is following the racing line pretty well and he brakes at a good location. However, he doesn't position the car correctly as he goes over the curbs here, launching the car over the grass, and then isn't able to save it as it gets back onto the track and basically spins out. Just going to fast forward through here as he gets the car back up to speed. Just unfortunate, you have to be very precise through there. However, as they get to this last corner, you can see he is following the racing line now. However, he gets onto the brakes just a bit here, and then he apexes a bit too early, using just a bit of partial throttle. Could be using a lot more to get a higher apex speed. And he runs a bit wide through here, getting back to full throttle as you come onto the finish straight here. And coming to the finish line, that should be a 1:57 for the amateur lap. Heading over to the Prolap for the final part of the course, we're actually using a similar racing line and a similar braking zone to the amateur lap. However, we position the car much better over the sausage curb so we don't get launched, and also put ourselves in a good position for the second part of the chicane as we put ourselves over the sausage curb there. So as we get to the next to last corner, partial throttle through the apex here, and then back to full throttle, being very progressive with the throttle there, not to spin out the car. As we get to the last corner here, bring the car to the left-hand side using all the entry curb, get a wide approach of the corner. We actually use a bit of partial throttle, however, we don't actually make it to the apex. However, we still get a lot of momentum as it carries us through the final corner onto the final straight here. And coming to the line, that should be around a 1:30.5 lap time. Hopefully this video is useful, showing the different techniques and approaches between the amateur and the experienced lap. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like the video and let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.